Hello viewers, welcome to BAETTA International English Language, Ielts, TOEFL, GRE, Ielts and TESOL programs. This is Im'l, Chairman Altiv and Head of Linguistics, BAETTA Bangladesh. As a part of our IELTS 8 Plus Guaranteed Teaching and Training course, this video is on IELTS Reading Module Series Lecture Video 4, Scholarly Interpretations of Reading and the Various Types of Reading Success. In this video, I will talk about Lesson 1, what does reading actually mean? Lesson 2, scholarly definitions of reading. Lesson 3, the 4 major types of reading according to the nature of reading. Lesson 4, 5 main types of reading according to the purposes of reading. So, this video is going to be very beneficial to you. Let's get started. Lesson 1. What does reading actually mean? Why most of the candidates think IELTS reading module very difficult and tricky and score badly in IELTS reading module is that they don't know what actually the reading is and they have no theoretical knowledge about reading. For a successful preparation on IELTS reading module, a candidate must learn about what reading actually means, the scholarly definitions of reading, as well as the major types of reading according to the nature of reading and according to the purposes of reading. In this video, you will learn about them in detail. Let's begin. Reading is a psycholinguistic process where both graphic and phonic systems are applied together to acquire knowledge and collect information from some printed documents or materials. In another word, reading is the process of looking at a series of written symbols and getting meaning from them. When we read, we use our eyes to receive written symbols like letters, punctuations, marks and spaces, and we use our brain to convert them into words, sentences and paragraphs that communicate something to us. Reading is the third of the 4 language skills, which are number 1 listening, number 2 speaking, number 3 reading and number 4 writing. In our own language, reading is usually the third language skill that we learn. Do we need to read in order to speak English? The short answer is no. Some native speakers can't read or write, but they can speak English fluently. On the other hand, reading is something that you can do on your own and that greatly broadens your vocabulary, thus helping you in speaking and in listening as well as in writing. Reading is therefore a highly valuable skill and activity, and it's recommended that English learners try to read as much as possible in English. Lesson 2. Some scholarly definitions of reading. Let's learn what the scholars say about reading. Number 1. Reading is a multifaceted process involving word recognition, comprehension, fluency, and motivation. Number 2. Reading is the act of looking at printed words and understanding or comprehending what they are saying, or the act of saying those words out loud, or of interpreting those words. An example of reading is when you look at a book and the words in it and understand the story. Number 3. Reading is an activity to get meaning from printed words or symbols, and how this ability is used to recognize, understand, and interpret in words. Lesson 3. What are the major types of reading? There are different types or modes of reading, and each of them has its own peculiarities. Readings are primarily categorized according to nature of reading and purposes of reading. Also, reading modes are classified by the degree of involvement like active and passive as well as in-depth reading. Reading can also be silent in our head or loud so that other people can hear. It is used for a specific purpose. On the basis of nature of reading, four major types of reading are: number 1, scanning; number 2, skimming eyes; number 3, intensive reading; and number 4, extensive reading. Viewers, now I am going to discuss each item in detail. Let's move. Number 1, scanning. This reading mode is aimed only at finding the necessary information in the text. It doesn't mean a complete immersion in the text and a deep comprehension of the facts or analysis of grammatical constructions. Often in this mode, the text is viewed for the presence of unfamiliar words so that after the translation, it will be more easy to read the text fully. This type of reading is also called diagonal reading. Here, the reader quickly scuttles or rushes across sentences to get to a particular piece of information. Scanning involves the technique of rejecting or ignoring irrelevant information from the text to locate a specific piece of information. Number 2, skimming. This reading mode is used to get to know and understand if this information is useful to you. As for example, you are viewing a book in a store or a magazine on the shelf before buying it. In this case, the text is also viewed quickly but not as carefully as in the previous case. The goal is not to search for specific facts but to evaluate the text for complexity, interest, and the general storyline, plot, or action. Skimming sometimes refers to as gist reading. It means going through the text to grasp the main idea. Here, the reader doesn't pronounce each and every word of the text but focuses their attention on the main theme or the core of the text. Examples of skimming are reading magazines or newspapers and searching for a name in a telephone directory. Number 3, intensive reading. Typically, this type of reading is used in the study of English in order to intensively parse or break down the proposed short teaching text to explain each element. With this type of reading, grammatical constructions, unfamiliar words, and phrases are intensively examined. Intensive reading is far more time-consuming than skimming and scanning, as it needs the reader's full attention to detail. It involves close reading that aims at the accuracy of comprehension. Here, the reader has to understand the meaning of each and every word. Number 4, extensive reading. The purpose of this type of reading is to get acquainted with new information. In this mode, people read art or scientific literature without being distracted by new unfamiliar words if their meaning cannot be approximately understood from the context. This type of reading implies the mastering of the general image and the receipt of new unfamiliar information. It will be necessary to form and express your opinion about what you read or answer the questions. Extensive reading lays more emphasis on fluency and less on accuracy. It usually involves reading for pleasure and is more of an out-of-classroom activity. It's highly unlikely for readers to take up the extensive reading of the text they don't like. Lesson 4. The major types of reading according to the purposes of reading. According to the purposes of reading, main 5 types of reading are: number 1, model reading; number 2, collective reading; number 3, reviewing; number 4, previewing; and number 5, overviewing. Now, I will discuss them in detail. Let's go. Number 1, model reading. Model reading aims at loud reading with accent so that other people can hear. A model reading to or reading aloud, involves the students listening to a text read aloud by the teacher. The teacher models skilled reading behavior, enjoyment, and interest in a range of different styles of writing and types of text. Thus, we shall review below. There are models that account for: number 1, word identification; number 2, syntactic parsing; number 3, discourse representations; and number 4, how certain aspects of language processing, as per example word identification in conjunction with other constraints, for example limited visual acuity or keenness or saccadic rapid error, etc. Number 2, collective reading. Collective reading aims at gathering idea and thought. A collective is a group of entities that share or are motivated by at least one common issue or interest or work together to achieve a common objective. Collectives can differ from cooperatives in that they are not necessarily focused upon an economic benefit of saving, but can be that as well. The term collective is sometimes used to describe a species as a whole, for example, the human collective. Collective reading aims at finding out ideas and thoughts of a reading content as a whole. Number 3, reviewing. A review is an evaluation of a publication and book. In addition to a critical evaluation, the review's author may assign the work a rating to indicate its relative merit. A second or subsequent reading of a text or artifact in an attempt to gain new insights. An account intended as a critical evaluation of a text or a piece of work. A reviewing attempts to survey, to look broadly over, to look back over in order to correct or edit and to revise, etc. It also attempts to make a brief summary as of a book or a presentation. Reviewing also implies to look over again, that is, something previously written or learned, especially in preparation for an examination. It also aims to go over and examine critically or deliberately. Number 4, previewing. Previewing is a strategy that readers use to recall prior knowledge and set a purpose for reading. It calls for readers to skim a text before reading, looking for various features and information that will help as they return to read it in detail later. Previewing a text means that you get an idea of what it's about without reading the main body of the text. To preview is to see or hear something before it is finalized. An example of previewing is to look at an art exhibit before the exhibit is open to the public. An advanced showing as of a movie or art exhibition to which a selected audience is invited before public representation begins. Overviewing. Number 5. Overviewing. To engage in an overviewing is to provide a brief summary. It is an inspection or overlooking to prepare a summary of a topic or situation or a plan or an outline or a survey. A general summary of a subject, like the treasurer gave a brief overview of the financial consequences, and so on. Conclusion. Reading is a receptive skill. Through it we receive information. But the complex process of reading also requires the skill of speaking so that we can pronounce the words that we read. In this sense, reading is also a productive skill in that we are both receiving information and transmitting it, even if only to ourselves. Viewers, in my next video on Ielts reading module, I will speak about 4 most common reading problems, 8 essential skills for reading success, and 17 reasons why reading is important for everyone. Thank you.